Hurricanes won a football game Saturday, so tonight is going to be about the positives. For the next 2 hours, we're going to remove the focus away from what has gone wrong this season and talk about what is going right. So let's start with quarterback Tyler Van Dyke. A few weeks ago, the debate was about whether he should be replaced by Jake Garcia. Well, tonight, we celebrate 2 straight games of 497 yards and 351 yards, which have helped reshape that narrative. Van Dyke credits his recent play with staying positive through his own and the team's struggles in the early part of this season.
I think it's just positivity and always staying up when things aren't going great. Throw a bad ball, just got to stay positive about it and move on to the next thing and not worry about, oh, that was a bad throw and sulk on it, and the next one's a bad throw. So you just got to stay positive, move on to the next play, and no matter what happens, you just got to keep moving forward, and that's the mentality I went with that bye week, and it just continued the last few weeks.
Van Dyke's performances have led to better and more reliable play and production from his receivers, notably Brashard Smith, Frank Latson, and Colby Young. Here's the word on Smith from TVD.
Yeah, man, Brashard's always been a special player. You guys saw spurts of it last year, and after X went down, he's really stepped it up. So I think during the bye week is when he really kind of started to really understand the entire offense as a whole and really started coming to his own and be that guy out there to make plays for us. So he's been doing that for the last few weeks, and he's going to continue to do that for us.
Young has come from out of nowhere to emerge as Miami's top threat down the field going into the second half of the season. You might be asking, where's that been all year? Well, Young has been in learning mode, might have been a little nicked up early, and it wasn't until the North Carolina game that the coaches felt comfortable, really comfortable, about putting him in there. We spoke to him about the transition to Miami.
It's pretty difficult coming from a whole offense and just a different type of game speed, and I was at a junior college. So getting to the speed of the game in the ACC and just getting used to the players and how people move was pretty difficult, but it was a great job for my teammates and the whole team in general, just helping me move forward and just never let me take a step back. Little text here like, hey, what do you got on this? What do you got on that? Just to help me out, just to make sure I'm on top of my game. And just like during like off-season conditioning, having my back, like, hey, stand up, like, you got this, you can get through this. It's like, this is going to be you. Really in the football game, it's so hard to not do good with Tyler Van Dyke back at quarterback, putting the ball in the right spots. So I feel like he really helped me improve anything, like getting out of cuts and all that. He just puts the ball in such a good spot. So
you will notice that Young has been primarily running go routes through these past 2 games. Offensive coordinator and receivers coach Josh Gaddis is trying to change that this week by expanding Young's route trees. In the meantime, Latson has stepped up his game by improving his hands. He's not dropping the ball anymore, and he's being much more consistent compared to Young's spectacular. And what about the defensive line, which is suddenly full of guys playing quality football? Akeem Messidor seems to be playing as well as any defensive end in the country. Mitchell Agood has been improved the past couple weeks, and Jafari Harvey has also been a steady force the entire season. Linebacker Corey Flagg has been one of the surprises of the season as well, holding off transfer Caleb Johnson for the bulk of reps at Mike linebacker. And then there's freshman Wesley Basaint, who's coming fast, and the coaches are clearly now reaching a comfort level with him as well in terms of giving him extended time on the field. At cornerback, Darryl Porter has been playing better, and he got the nod last week when Tyreek Stevenson was held out due to concussion protocol. Lou Headley is quietly having as good a season as any punter in the country. So it hasn't all been negatives. There are positives there. And then there's the record. Miami's at 3-3 at the halfway point of the season with 6 games left to shape the narrative of the 2022 season. So the positives, that's the overall theme tonight as we embark on this new edition of CaneSport Live. Hello again, everybody. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com. We welcome you once again to CaneSport Live. As always, this is your show. It'll be driven by your participation. The call-in number is 563-999-3550. That's 563-999-3550. You hit the 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. We have more than 100 open phone lines, plenty of room for everybody to participate. So again, you call 563-999-3550, and you hit the 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. Okay, now that all of that's been said, we certainly are not suggesting that the overall issue of the lack of impact talent on this roster has just gone away. No, it has not. This week, we set out to evaluate the team at the midway point, both by position groups and individuals. Here's what we came up with. Okay, when you look at this ranking of Miami's position groups at midseason, it really wasn't very difficult to pick the number one unit on the team, and that's the defensive line. That's where the most consistent performances have been. That's where the most spectacular performances have been, led by Akeem Mesidor, who, as we noted, is playing the defensive end position at an extremely, extremely high level. But it hasn't just been Mesidor. You've gotten good performances from Jafari Harvey. You've gotten a good performances from Mitchell Agude. At defensive tackle, Darrell Jackson is playing very, very well. Leonard Taylor has flashed quite a bit. So without a doubt, defensive line, when you start factoring Elijah Roberts and Jared Harrison Hunt and some of the other guys that have been playing, Chance Williams, it is the deepest and the best position on this football team. Now, some who were knocking on TVD earlier in the season might question our choice of quarterback as number 2. But Tyler Van Dyke was not as bad early in the season as some people wanted to make it. And then he has been spectacular the last 2 weeks. So, yes, we think quarterback has been number 2 on this team in the first half of the season. From there, it's a mixed lot, man. I mean, like, we made special teams number 3, but, you know, Andres Borregales has missed 3 critical field goals. That's a big thing. Tyreek Stevenson had that muff punt at Texas A&M. So special teams have been very uneven at best. The running backs have had a couple good games, a couple bad games. The tight ends have done a decent job, but the position has been besieged by injury and issues blocking for the run game. The receivers have been hot and cold. Off of last week, we probably could have moved them up a little bit, but we got to see more, I think, from there. The offensive line started out the season okay, has been absolutely terrible the last couple weeks. And then there's the linebackers, which have been pretty average the whole year, but actually started picking it up at Virginia Tech last week. So there's hope for the linebacker position. And obviously last is the defensive backs, the most disappointing position group on the football team. When the season began, we thought the defensive backs would be one of the better groups on the football team. But Tyreek Stevenson's been playing hurt. DJ Ivey gave up that horrible touchdown against Middle Tennessee State. James Williams has been so-so, but hasn't been tackling particularly well. Avante Williams has been struggling so much that the coaches barely feel like they could put him on the field. And then Cam Kinchins had those 2 horrible mental busts against North Carolina. So when you factor in 6 deep balls that went for touchdowns or led to touchdowns, there is no question that the defensive back position is the one struggling the most on this Hurricane team. All right, now taking a look at the top 5 Miami Hurricane players at midseason, this was a little tougher than you would think. I mean, there have not been a lot of spectacular individual performances to this point in the schedule. Mesidor clearly has been the best player on the team. We think number 2 has been Lou Hedley. Then we made Van Dyke number 3 over Henry Parrish because he's kind of tailed off here the last couple of weeks. And then Will Mallory, we put him at number 5. He might have been higher, except for the fact that he really has not been having that great of a season as a blocker. All right, so all of that is on the table tonight as we begin this new edition of CaneSport Live. Welcome, everybody, once again to the show. The number is 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. You hit the number 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. Let's get right out to the calls and begin in the 305 tonight, where you are live on CaneSport Live. How you doing this evening?
Ooh, Gary, that was a lot of positive for this team. I'll tell you that much.
Hey, man.
Having to sit through that, give me a stomach ache. Woo.
It's all about the positives tonight, man. Aren't you tired
No.
of negatives? I mean, I feel so bad for the fan base, and just through our message boards and through talking to people at places like Caneswear and All Canes and stuff. It's like everyone's just like jumped off a bridge, man. It's like we're sitting here, we're in the middle of October, and yet again,
It's over. It's a dead season already. It's over. It's a wasted season. Done.
I don't know, man. I feel bad for all you guys. I hope that they can win these next few games and that we can have some meaningful games in the month of November. I don't think that's out of the question.
Well, I mean, I should hope that, you should be able to beat this terrible Virginia Tech team. Obviously they did. Duke. I mean, these teams they're about as average as you could be. But I mean, I just want to say, I am, and I still have so much faith in Mario Cristobal, and I was more excited than anyone in this world that he was coming here, because I do feel he is the guy to turn this around. But I get to tell you one thing. I've been doing it now for 32 years, and before the game starts, home games start, I always go down to the field and I watch the team stretch. And I'm telling you, Gary, this team is just like any other team that we've had, every other mediocre team. They have no life, no spunk, just nothing, no jump in their step. And I thought, listen, we know the roster isn't loaded. I think it's a little bit better than, we want to think it is. Just comparable to what we're playing against and what the results have been. But I don't see any. Normally, teams take on the flow of their coach and a little fiery and show some more enthusiasm. This team, they loaf around during practice. I mean, not practice, during stretching and all that stuff. They're not out there ready to dominate anyone. It's no different than any other year for the last 15 or 20 years. I've seen the same thing this year as any other year. And another thing, this is the same thing we're going through with the same players. And I just heard you mention, the defensive backs were probably the biggest disappointment so far. And the defensive backs have the most tender on the team. They've been here for the longest. You mentioned a lot of starters. You got that Rooster kid. I mean, you have the veterans basically plateauing or getting worse. And everyone says, oh, well, then you got Wesley Saint. He's going to be good. He's going to be the future. Well, yet again, we said that about all these other kids. James Williams. We said it about, Kitchens, all these other guys when they were freshmen. And now we see them plateauing off again. Listen, I'm not hiring coaches. Maybe you guys are seeing a lot more. I cannot, from the product we're seeing on the field, I see no different than Manny Diaz, than Al Golden. Actually, I thought Al Golden probably did the best job out of the last 5 coaches. But it's the same story. It's the same script. I see no difference in anything.
Schmeier, it's the same guys, man. It's pretty much the same guys. Think about it. Okay, you take out Rambo, you take out Harley, you put in Messidor, you put in Agude. Beyond that, it's pretty much the same team that was mentally soft last year, that's shown up mentally soft this year, that wasn't tough enough last year, that hasn't been tough enough this year. That doesn't respond well to adversity. That has not responded well to adversity.
Or something get these guys better? Like, don't they get better? I see teams all the time, that are, start off the year a little shaky and they get better. I mean, is this team going to get better?
Yeah, I know. I don't think it's as bad. Schmeier, I don't think it's as bad as we, might think it is just on the face value. I mean, I was talking to Kevin Steele the other day and for the most part, he is not unhappy with the defense. He thinks that they have played relatively well for most of the season. That he just says that there's those 6 plays that he just can't even begin to explain what the heck was going on. And they've destroyed the season. Those 6 plays destroyed the season because you lost to Middle Tennessee State and you lost to North Carolina. and now you're behind the 8 ball in the Coastal. You're probably not winning the Coastal no matter what you do here, unless you can upset Clemson and Carolina stumbles. And but for the most part, he said he is happy with the defense, that the guys have great attitudes. They're playing very hard every week, and he feels they're playing pretty well. Is that, detachment from reality? I don't think so. I mean, if you think about it, they did play pretty well at Texas A&M. Just blew the game.
They did. But what happened to that offensive line that was at Texas A&M that were mauling 5-star kids? Now they can't even block. I mean, Virginia Tech. They couldn't even throw they couldn't run the ball in the fourth quarter to wind down the clock. I can't believe that was a game. I really can't believe that Virginia Tech game actually came down to a fourth quarter drive. It's unbelievable. I mean, that team is pathetic. That's awful. I mean, that's a really bad team. And that game was live in the fourth quarter for Miami to almost lose after dominating for 3 quarters because they couldn't run the ball. So,
I have my own theory about the offensive line. I mean, obviously now they're banged up. They were without 3 starters the other day. But my theory was this, and I was there in College Station on the field at the end of that game. And I'm watching these guys walk off the field, and they went the distance, those offensive linemen. There's not a lot of depth. And the guys that started that game went the distance. And, they're going against a lot of 5-star kids and, really good players. And they were hurting, man. I mean, they were hurting physically more than I've ever seen a Miami offensive line hurting after a football game. And Mario did have them playing ridiculously hard. They did play well enough to win that game on the road at night at one of the toughest places to play in college football. And Tyreek muffed the punt, and the defense couldn't respond and hold them. And Borregales missed 2 field goals. The offense missed some opportunities. And in an 8-point game, they left at least 13 to 20 points out on the field. And that's you're not going to win. You're not winning on the road at Texas A&M doing that. But getting back to what you were saying, Schmeiler, the O-line, I've never seen them hurt as bad as they were after that game. And I'm not sure, I'm thinking, how do they not even show up the next week? And I'm thinking they do not want to feel that pain again. And they thought they had a vacation week. And they couldn't flip the switch. And that's my explanation. Huh?
Is that coaching to get your guys prepared?
It is. Yes, it is. And for those that want to poke holes at Mario and Alex Mirabal, they definitely have fodder there. I think that if you were to ask, Mario, I think he thought they were ready to play. And, everything just kind of snowballed there, and it became apparent that they were not. The 2 interceptions at the beginning of the game. I mean, one was a bad throw by TVD. The other one was a great play by the defensive end. Maybe he should have seen him. Maybe he didn't. We'll just say, for argument's sake, that he was not all there at the start of that game. Then you follow that up, and Jalen Knighton fumbles 3 plays later. Okay, so it's snowballing already. And then clearly that 10-2 sprinter that was playing wide receiver wasn't accounted for in the game plan. I think that was pretty obvious. I'm not calling out any names or embarrassing him. I don't even know what individual would have been responsible for making sure that was in the scouting report, and that Kevin Steele was dealing with that when he was, making his play chart. But we have all watched Miami's corners, particularly DJ Ivey, get beat in that exact situation by speed receivers. We've been watching it for the last 3-4 seasons. So it shouldn't have been a great surprise to any Canes fan that when DJ Ivey's matched up one-on-one against a 10-2 sprinter on the outside, that the guy just ran right by him. DJ's playing relatively well this year. What he is not is a speed corner. Okay. He is not winning foot races against very speedy wide receivers, and you can't put him in those situations. I think Kevin Steele knows that now because of what happened there. So now you gave up 4 of those type of plays to Middle Tennessee State. Nobody obviously saw that coming, and it snowballed. You're spotting them 38 points. You're not playing well, and crap happens, man. It was horrible, obviously.
All right, just I don't want to keep it too long here. Then I got a lot of people. But what do you see happening? We know this is a lost season. It is what it is. They're going to drop whether they beat Duke or they lose, to Pittsburgh, and then obviously you have Clemson. It's a lost season. Let's just start. What do you see happening in the off season? And do you see the recruiting class, holding? Do you see that? Is that basically that we're just trying to do is stack talent here?
Well,
say that
here's I'll put my crystal ball on, Shmira. Here's what I see for the future.
Okay.
I think these next few games are very important. I think they must beat Duke. They must beat Virginia. Okay. They must get to 5-3 going into November. Okay.
Those teams are terrible.
I know they're terrible, but I'm just saying they have to. Well, actually, Duke is not terrible. Duke is better than people think this year. They are going to have to play on Saturday to beat Duke, but they should. They're at home.
They get robbed of a win last week. Woo, I was watching that game. That was bad.
They should have beat North Carolina by 10, Shmira.
They did.
I know.
It was a terrible flag.
I know. I know.
It was awful.
All right. So anyway, I think you obviously got to win these next two. Now you're 5-3 going into November. You're playing Florida State. Okay. If you're at 5-3,
right,
people are going to get fired up. You're going to be fired up. You're going to go to the stadium. Everyone's going to get fired up. They're going to go to the Florida State game, and it's going to be an important game for Canes fans and for the Miami Hurricanes program. Okay. You got to rise up in that situation. Okay. That game is going to define your season at that point. Because if you win it, you go to 6-3, and then you've got 3 more games. One of them at Clemson, where you're probably not going to win, but at least you go. If you get to 6-3, and then you go to Georgia Tech and you take care of business at Georgia Tech, and you get to 7-3, at least you're going to Clemson with your head held high, and the game will not be set at 12:30 in the afternoon and televised on Bally Sports and ESPN3,
right,
which half of the damn fan base can't see. Okay, and we got 3 straight weeks of that, Shmira. So they got to deal with that. Okay, that's got to go. This 12:30 nonsense on nondescript TV network has got to go. It's embarrassing to the program. Okay, so I don't see their season as a write-off. I don't look at it as a write-off at all.
No, Florida's games. If you look at every night, 7:30 ESPN, prime time, FSU, same thing, and they're not that good. I mean, whoever made this schedule is.
It's not the schedule. It's the fact that they lost those games. They lost 3 in a row. 1 to Middle Tennessee State. They did it to themselves. They did it to the fans. They did it to themselves. They did it to the program. They can't change history. All they can do is try to fix it for the month of November, which is very important because it leads into the month of December, which gets to the second part of your question, right. Recruiting. Okay. Now here's what I see in recruiting. I think everything goes in the month of December. I think it's going to be the wild, wild west. I think that the fact that any kids that are committed, I don't think it means a damn thing. I think kids are going to go up in value in NIL. I think kids are going to go down in value in NIL. I think there's going to be an incredible amount of movement in recruiting in December, maybe unlike anything we've ever seen. Okay. And it is very important that the Miami Hurricanes get to December with some semblance of respect, because then Mario Cristobal can be Mario Cristobal and he can go recruit. And, limping in with a 6-6 record or something like that isn't going to cut it. Okay. They should get progressively better here, Shmira. I mean, they're going to get some guys back.
Okay.
They're not going to be as beaten up. You're seeing guys like Colby Young emerging. You're seeing Wesley Basaint making the coaches more comfortable to put him out there more. You're seeing little signs of progress if they can just sustain it here these next several weeks and finish with respectability and signs that the program is headed in the right direction. And then Mario can go be Mario. In the month of December, John Ruiz can be John Ruiz. The NIL program can flex its muscles. There's a collective now in the backgrounds. Miami should be as competitive as anybody in the country in NIL. And no matter what the NCAA says, NIL is going to shape recruiting. They can try all they want. They can talk to all the senators they want and try to get legislation done and all that. Players are, if everything's by the book, players are going to know what their NIL value is before they sign on December 21st. So that's what I see happening, man. I think it's going to be crazy.
Yeah. You actually made me feel better, and like I said,
it's about positivity tonight, man.
All right, Gary.
It's a festival of positivity. Schmeier, hey, thank you for getting us started tonight, man. We'll talk to you next time.
All right, you got it, Gary.
Guy's a knowledgeable guy, man. I like when he calls in. All right, 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. You hit the 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. All our audio issues from earlier hopefully are solved. They should be. It was one button, believe it or not. Took a lot of work figuring out which one it was, but I think we're in good shape now. Let's go out to the 845. You're live on CaneSport Live.
Yeah, Gary, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, Greg? How you doing this week? Everything sounding okay to you?
I want to know. You want to know how to get rich, Gary?
I would love to.
Against Miami, they're 0-5 against the spread against Division I teams this year. How the hell could they not cover in that game the other day? That was a disaster. Okay. Here we go.
I'm trying to remember what the line was. What was the line in that game? I don't have
the line went up to 9.
To 9?
It was started out at 7 and went to 9. They're up 20-0 in the fourth quarter. They don't run the ball and they don't run the clock down. They snap it with 10 seconds to go on the play clock. What is going on?
All right.
Mario Takari Couch commits a ridiculous penalty. A personal foul right in front of Mario's nose, and he leaves him in the game.
He doesn't have a choice, Greg. Greg, he doesn't have a choice. He does not have a choice. He had to leave him in the game. They don't have anybody else to put in. I assure you, Mario addressed that behind closed doors on Sunday. It was as bad a penalty as you'll ever see in your life. No argument from me whatsoever. I wrote a column on CaneSport.com where I said I would bench him for the rest of the season. Some people thought I was being a little extreme. I didn't think I was being extreme. I mean, you have a team. You're playing on a team that has lost 3 straight games. You're on the road. You're hanging on for dear life. If they score, it's going to be a 1-score game in the latter part of the fourth quarter, and plenty of teams lose those. Talk to Duke. You go and you're not even making a real play on the ball carrier, and you shove him out of bounds and draw a 15-yard penalty for just total nonsense. I won't even say nonsensical reasons, because there can't possibly be a reason for doing what he did. So you are absolutely right, Greg. You have every right to be angry if you bet on the Canes, and penalties like that cost you your cover.
17 penalties.
Yeah, I know.
17 penalties.
And a lot of them were like that. And they cost you your cover. They cost the Canes fan their cover. And no, that's not cool. You're right. I mean, losing 5 straight weeks against the spread, let's face it, sports betting is a lot of sports. So, I'm not saying that the coaches should coach for the spread, but I think a lot of them do. But no, man, you're right. But I think things are getting a little better. I really do. I know I've been, probably overly positive at times, but I like the way the team looked at Texas A&M. I mean, they lost the game on a couple plays, but I thought they competed their butts off. I thought they ran the ball better than we've seen Miami run the ball in a long, long time. I was fired up leaving College Station, man. I thought that this season was going to be a really good season. And how do you explain the next week? You can't. It's not even worth talking about. The North Carolina game, they did it to themselves again. You can't spot a good team like that, a few touchdowns, and a team that's pretty close to you in talent, and think you're going to win. I mean, these games go down to the fourth quarter. That's the way the Coastal's been for many, many years. There's not a lot of separation.
Okay. You and Matt constantly talk about it's going to take up to 4 years to get this program back. How do you explain Tennessee?
Matt says 4. I don't say 4. I say 2 to 3. I don't say 4. I think that there's going to be 20 players that will leave this team after this season. And I think that they will be replaced. 20. I think 20. I think there'll be another 20.
20 more?
Yes, 20 more. Like last year, correct. I think there'll be another 20. And I think that they will hit the portal. And I think they are recruiting as hard as they can. I think they're going to, put their big boy pants on in December And I think that they're going to make some pretty, I think that there's going to be some pretty clear signals sent that you are a big priority for us. And if you are a big priority for us, you are going to get paid. And, the track record's there. John Ruiz has stepped up to the plate. Like I said, there's a second collective now that's, building its war chest behind the scenes. And I think Miami's going to be very competitive in December. And the combination of the two, traditional recruiting and portal, should equal a significantly improved team next year. We'll see.
I know Mario's a tremendous recruiter, but his style of coaching, I mean, a hard-ass coaching, is that going to turn off some recruits?
If it turns off any recruit,
hard?
Greg, any recruit that turns off, you want to turn off, in my opinion. Kids that don't want to be coached hard, kids that don't want to compete, you can't win anything with them. You're better off that they don't come to you, even though you might not realize it at the time. Look at all of Miami's recruiting classes the last 10 years. They're littered with kids that, are just like that didn't pan out, that didn't last in the program for very long. That's what's got to change. I mean, every scholarship's got to count. And I think that any kid that's afraid to be coached hard is soft, and you don't want them on your team. They're not going to help you win a championship. Is it going to affect the kids on the current team? Absolutely. It's going to 100%. There will be attrition after this year. Like I said, I mean, there will be kids that say this is not for me.
All right. One last point. This morning you said Duke's not bad.
They're not.
Is that what this program has come to? We need to struggle against Duke.
Greg, we've been struggling against Duke for years, man. Duke came to Hard Rock and won. Don't you remember? They've been struggling.
I know. I was there with Daniel Jones. It was pouring rain. I was there.
with Daniel Jones before we realized Daniel
that.
Jones. Yeah, but listen. I mean,
we just smoked them last year,
and hopefully they will smoke them this year.
Now
but they gotta show up and play. It's not going to be. This isn't Middle Tennessee Part 2, man. You can't just walk into the stadium and say, "Hey, we're the Miami Hurricanes" anymore, and roll over Duke, because they ain't rolling over, man. They're coming here to win, and they got Jess Simpson on their staff there. They got Coach Ishmael on their staff there. They got David Feely on their staff there. These are all guys that were here a year ago. They know this Miami team inside and out, man, strengths and weaknesses. If you don't think that this is going to be a potential scrum on Saturday, you're deceiving yourself. They are coming here ready to play. They are pissed off. They got screwed against North Carolina, although from what I understand, it was a legit call. But, man, that's a tough way to lose when you get a touchdown taken off the board late in the fourth quarter that's putting you up by 10, and then your kicker misses an easy field goal, and then North Carolina goes down the field and scores the winning touchdown. I think that would get me a little salty. So, listen, I think that this is going to be a tough game this weekend, and Miami better come to play.
All right, I'll leave you with this. Just remember.
Give me one thing positive, Greg. I need one thing positive from you.
7-0, Gary. Lane Kiffin, 7-0.
I know, but he's also
he's not a good coach.
He's also in his
7-0.
He's also in his third or fourth year there, right? Is it fourth or third? I can't remember.
He's in the SEC.
I know, but he's got to, and he hasn't played the meat of his schedule yet. But he will. They'll lose a few games. But the point I'm making is that he's in his third or fourth year? Is it the fourth or third, Greg? I can't remember.
I think it's his third year.
Okay, so he's got his system installed. He's got 3 recruiting classes in place, and he's probably a little bit further along than where they are here right now. Not an excuse by any stretch of the imagination. Miami is certain. It'd be interesting to see Miami play Ole Miss and see, how the game goes. I think Ole Miss would probably win at this point, but they are further along. But I don't think you can use that as an example. Oh my God, Miami should have hired Lane Kiffin. I mean, come on, man. Mario's the perfect guy for this job. Seriously, if Mario can't get this thing,
you're right.
If he can't get this thing done, man, it ain't happening. I'm telling you. I'm going to retire. You're going to go cheer for Ole Miss. You'll go cheer for Ole Miss. I'm going to retire. I'm telling you, If he can't do it, I don't know who can. This job requires cojones. It requires toughness. It requires persistence. Not too many guys can handle it, to be quite honest.
Well, I hope you're right. Have a good week.
All right,
Take
Greg,
care.
you got one positive thing for me, man? Not one?
One, yeah, I do.
What's that? Because you are so negative. Now I understand you're upset.
I'm hoping to win this week. I'm going to take Miami again. The law of averages said they got to cover at least once.
So what are
All
you?
right.
So hey, when you go into what's the line this week? I haven't looked.
I think it was about 8.
8. Okay, so you're gonna lay 8 points. You're taking Miami, and like after losing 4 straight weeks, do you just keep doubling your bet so that when you do?
No, 5 straight. 5 straight.
Okay, so after losing 5 straight weeks,
maybe I'll wait to listen to what Lee Sterling has to say.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Lee says too. But seriously, do you keep doubling your bet so that when the time comes that you do finally win?
No, I didn't. No. I haven't bet him every week. I bet him last week, and I thought I had a lock when it was 20-0.
Well, a lot of gamblers I know, they'll just keep upping the ante, man. They'll just keep doubling their bet so that when they finally do win, they get back to even.
No, I'm not an idiot.
Okay.
All
right, Greg. Hey, great
All
talking to you as always. Thanks for calling. Thank you for calling the show.
All right.
563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. You hit the 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. Let's go out to the 786. You are live on CaneSport Live. How you doing tonight?
Gary, my friend, how are you?
Hey, what's up, Everything 305? How you doing this week?
Doing great, brother. Doing great. Hoping Mike Kane calls in a little bit. Hopefully,
yeah, we need a report from Mike Kane. Let me see if I see him anywhere. I don't see him yet, but yeah, we definitely need a Mike Kane report.
My friend.
Yep. So,
absolutely.
So what you got for us this week?
I'm gonna be a little more positive right now with regards to the job that Mario has done in terms of building the roster. I mean, you're making a point that we might lose anywhere between 15 and 25 kids, and I think that's very evident. That's probably going to happen. You've got a lot of kids that, if you look at our roster, the best kids in many of the positions that we have are kids that he's brought in, are kids that are starting to really flourish. And you look at some of the kids that have picked up and gotten better. I think you've got 3 or 4 kids that are starters now that have gotten better. I mean, they're not still at the high end level, but they still have improved. So there are some definite keepers. But yeah, the roster turnover is going to be huge. And I think I made this point to you very early in the season. I was of the belief, maybe 8-4. I never thought about 9 wins, but I knew it was going to take a while. But I was always emphasizing that, in my opinion, we would play our best ball the last 5, possibly 6 games of the season. So when you find out who your real alphas are, you find out who your true guys that you can count on, who are the guys that are not afraid to compete, who are the guys that can deal with the mentality that's required. And that was a big part of my reasoning. So when we look at where we're at right now, the injuries have decimated many starting positions, but the kids that have stepped in, they are some cases 2 offensive linemen really got no snaps when they were both at Oregon. They're getting snaps now. They're playing games, so they're coming along. I mean, they're going to get better. This unit's going to get better, and I feel that right now our best ball is still ahead of us. Are there going to be some issues? Yeah. Are we going to have to do things that we don't want to do in terms of our philosophy? No doubt about it. They figured that out too late. They should have figured this out, in the first quarter playing against North Carolina, that you can't play establishing the line of scrimmage with this group. You can at times with the defense, but you definitely can't based on the level of talent, skill level, the physicality those kids have. You're missing too many people up front. So Mario being able to buy into what he needs to do just to win games, that takes a while too. So every week, I think what we're going to see is Tyler getting a little bit better and better. He did a better job last week. He wasn't as much focused as he was on, or fixated on the first option. I think he was able to move safeties a little bit more last week, and I see him getting better again this week. So Duke presents a lot of challenges, though, Gary. Duke is no pushover. Elko's got those guys; they all bought in, and it's a veteran offensive line. It's
And a
couple
smart
of
team.
Transfers.
They're a smart team.
Very smart, and they don't hurt themselves. And they force they force
Except
a lot of
last
fumbles.
week.
They force turnovers.
Except last week they hurt themselves. They had a chop block on the winning play. They hurt themselves. but typically they don't.
And Gary, that chop block was totally away from the play. It had nothing to do with that play.
I know, but they're going to call it every time.
That.
That will be called every time. That's a safety. That's a safety rule.
Yeah, the safety of the players. But you look at everything, and it's like it's hopefully going to be a great game. We're going to match up. There's certain matchups I think they're going to struggle with. I don't think they really have a linebacker that can go ahead and cover Mallory or Skinner. They're going to play a lot of zone, keep everything in front of them, I'm pretty sure. But they're going to run a lot of blitz packages, a lot of packages that, similar to what Vautech did that second half. So I think it's going to be a competitive game, but I'm more positive. I'm more optimistic about what I think is going to happen. I think we're going to play a lot better.
You know what's interesting is how defending Miami has changed. Miami starts out the season running the football. Okay. And you're watching Miami, Texas A&M, and you're watching the physicality of the offensive line and the way they ran the ball against Texas A&M. And, you're Middle Tennessee, you're North Carolina, you're Virginia Tech. When you're looking at your game plan, you're thinking, man, we got to shut down the running game. And they've been loading up the box, which is a lot of the reason why Miami hasn't been able to run very well. Not to mention the injuries on the O-line and the fact that they're in total disarray. O-line and running backs, by the way, and they're in total disarray in the run game. I think they're working very hard at it this week. But defending Miami changed everything. I mean, now Miami's, throwing the ball a lot. And, you got Colby Young to deal with. Frank Latson's playing better. Mallory, before he got knocked out, is playing at a very high level as a pass catcher. And defending Miami changed on these guys. And it's not so easy anymore if Miami can get its act back together running the football.
And I think you're going to see even more changes, more Tyler Van Dyke friendly type of schemes and games being played. I think he's going to install more every week.
You know what? I don't know if he's telling the truth or not, because obviously we can't compare an entire playbook. Josh Gaddis insists that he hasn't installed anything new. He insists that everything that we're seeing has been in from the very beginning. They're just executing it better.
Well, I definitely think that's just coach because
it might be.
Look at the package they had.
Yeah, we don't know
for the kid for kid from Valdosta. There's no doubt that wasn't really in. That
was in week one, man. We saw that. We saw that against Bethune-Cookman. That absolutely was in.
You know what? I maybe you're right.
It was there. We saw it against Bethune.
Yeah. I just don't think that was something that was going to be, utilized.
They could, if they redshirt him, if the plan is to redshirt Ja'Curry Brown, they can only do that 4 times.
How many times have they done it, Gary?
Twice. So we could see that 2 more. We could see that 2 more games. If they do it more than 2, he's losing his red shirt.
Well, I think what Gaddis is mentioning, though, that basically in terms of his scheme, because when you look at even when they do spread, you're still utilizing a tight end in the spread. You're not necessarily going out with 4 wide receivers or primarily 3 wide receivers and 1 tight end. And that's pretty much what he's done. He hasn't gone with 4 wide and a back. He hasn't done that. So I still think there's certain packages he hasn't shown yet or hasn't done. But if you look at some of the games, there's more bubbles, at least more attempts to. That you see guys cutting their routes shorter based on what the defense. I mean, there's more. I think there's more options that are friendly that Tyler's comfortable with. So now his rhythm is back, and he's just letting it fly more. And he wasn't that way the first 3 games for sure. But nonetheless, my point is I still think we're going to get better and better week in and week out. I don't necessarily mean that constitutes a running game being able to be picked up, but you'll get opportunities based on the defense being spread out for different opportunities to run the ball here and there, to get some quick runs, different things that are going to be in the playbook that he's going to utilize. A little bit more RPO where maybe Tyler keeps it, because it's there. And people are not, people aren't accounting for him a lot. So I think those things are going to come out more and more, and they're going to get more comfortable because your quarterback is going to be more comfortable. And that might make everybody a little bit more confident. I wasn't shocked to see some of the catches that the kid from the transfer from Clemson did, the kid from South Dade. But I was really surprised with the way that Colby was able to go ahead and just focus on winning a contested ball. I was very surprised with that. I hadn't expected that. The week before against Carolina, he beat one of their better Grimes, one of their better cornerbacks. He beat him flat out, and just Tyler made a great throw. But I think you're going to see more and more of defenses having to account for him, and that's what's going to open more things underneath, I think. So if he's getting more, if they're getting a safety to go ahead and pay attention to his side a little bit more, I think that opens up more opportunities for everybody else. So it's going to have an impact across the board, but it's going to be nice to see, or it's going to be interesting to see rather, what does he do when he's going up for a contested ball when there's two guys in that space, not one? Because that's coming, Gary.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. All right, everything good? You got anything else for us this week?
I had one thing. You talked about December, and that in December you can't hold back.
No, December is going to be the Wild Wild West. That's what I was talking about.
I mean, it's going to be crazy. The kid from, I think it's Wisconsin, one of the better wide receivers, he's in the portal. I think every week from here on out, you're going to see, 3, 4, 5 kids, then 5, 6, 7 kids, then 9 kids, then 10 kids. Every week, the number of kids that are going to start hitting that portal is going to increase because you're halfway through the season pretty much. And if things aren't going right, you're not comfortable, you're not, same thing these kids do when it comes to a bowl game. They want to jeopardize their well-being, and that's going to start to happen soon.
Yeah.
Especially we're at the midpoint of the college football season. So expect that definitely to have an impact as well. And hopefully that doesn't impact us. Gary, be well.
All right, everything. Thanks for being part of the show, man. All right, we got the YouTube comments rocking tonight, and Mukomo says the problem is the complicated defensive scheme that's causing blown assignments. Plain and simple. I don't know if I agree with that, Moo. I'm gonna tell you why, man. Cam Kinchins is playing basic cover 2 that kids play when they're in peewee ball. Okay, it's like one of the more basic coverages in football at any level, and just did the wrong thing. Inexplicable. So I'm not sure that the defense is too complicated. I just, there's nothing complicated about covering a guy one-on-one on the outside. Okay. You got your technique, you got to execute it properly. You can't let it break down. And then it's the responsibility of the coaches to not put their players in a bad situation. And like against Middle Tennessee, it was a bad situation. Against North Carolina, it was Cam Kinchins not doing the right things. So I don't think it has anything to do with the difficulty of the scheme. I really, really don't. 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. You hit the 1 on your keypad if you would like to come on the show. Let's go to the 757 now. You are live on CaneSport Live. How you doing tonight?
Hey, this is Kane. I want to give you an apology. Last week I told you I would apologize, and I'm going to be very kind about that. Tyler Van Dyke did play good, but guess what? I'm getting ready to cramp this and ramp it up real quick. You got the apology. That's out the way. Your top 5 was straight garbage. How you not going to have Cam Kitchens in there? And you should all be throwing a lot of dirt on Kitchens.
Wait, what did you say? Say it again. Kane.
No, hell no.
I didn't understand what you said.
That man been on. He has been there all last year.
I love Cam Kitchens.
One bad damn game, and you trash him all the
He is the best. Cam Kitchens, listen, Cam.
Yo, Gary, you ain't playing on the same field, bro.
Cam,
You ain't
I
playing
mean,
on the same field.
Kane. Cam Kitchens is the best defensive back on the team. There, I said it. He is the best. And he's also the nicest kid in the world.
No, bro, I'm not listening to that trash. You got trash on your side. You just called that boy out again. But when TVD, he didn't play that bad in them 4 games. You was damn
When we
right.
talk about TVD throwing those interceptions, we're not calling him out.
No, bro, you cannot keep dogging these boys from Miami. And another thing, when they
What does where they're from have to do with anything? Come on, Kane.
I'm not done. You're not gonna overcall me. You can hang up if you want to.
No, I love when you call in. You're one of my favorite callers.
You, man, you don't play the field right, bro. You a killer player. He wasn't in your top five. You got Mallory in your top five. How the hell is Mallory in there? And he can't even catch a
I'm not responsible for what goes on the field.
One good game. Man, fuck that. You killing me with this, bro. Cam Kitchens is the best secondary man we got.
Yes, he is.
He's the best man. He had one bad game out of all the games he played. And you trying to tell me
Kane.
he's not in the top five?
Kane. That excuse has got to go. That excuse has to go bye-bye, man. This stuff, forget about he had one bad game. You can't have one bad game in college football. This ain't the NFL where you can lose 6 times and win your division.
You biased, bro.
No!
You ain't gonna call you out. I don't call you out. You are biased when it comes to certain players, bro. And you've been like that for years. Stop it.
How can I be biased? How can I be biased towards Cam Kitchens, who's the best defensive back on the team? What?
You're old Steven. I'll go around the globe, but you just dog at me and not at me. You just told your boy. You say he can't cover nobody, but he has a problem with
DJ Ivy. DJ Ivy's playing great this year, other than you can't put him in a speed matchup.
He can't really cover, but he can run with some fast receivers.
He can't cover a speed receiver one-on-one on the outside. He can't do it. You can't ask him to do it.
Like I said, I got to keep going because I got to get ready to get off from work. But when them wide receivers from South Florida, when they see people like Romello, I don't know what he's doing in practice, but I seen when they get him in the game, you give him a reverse. He's a receiver, runs into the play.
Kane.
Okay, then you do a bubble screen. You know the last time we was able to block a bubble screen? 29 years ago. We ain't never been good with bubble screen.
You have a JUCO kid who has played very little football, who didn't know a single play when he got dropped off on campus in July, who now is the best receiver you have, who has passed all of these guys that you think that are being dogged by me or anybody else. He passed every one of those guys up. The second best receiver right now, Kane, is a transfer from Clemson. Dude, none of those guys are playing. They aren't performing. It's on them. It's not on the people talking about them.
Gary, you killed me.
Kane, we are all from South Florida. We all want the best for the South Florida kids, but they have to perform when they get to college.
You need to stop analyzing better than what the hell you analyze. You ain't doing a great job because you swore out that boy wasn't ready. Now he went out there and shined.
Who?
The best receiver on the team. Get the hell out of here with that mess.
Who?
And another thing, them South Florida receivers, they see what y'all doing. Them coaches better open their eyes because them South Florida kids go, man, I ain't going to do that shit. This guy was this guy was that. I'm going to go elsewhere. And guess what? I can't fault them if they do this. Because some of the bullshit I see around here, and that mess, like I said, your top 5, Kitchen should have been right there. Mallory should have been on the East Coast. And TVD, because of his 2 good games, he got it. He in there, but he ain't going to hold that spot. You know what? The hell with this. I'm out. They better beat Duke. Till next week. Peace. Got me hot as hell right now. Damn.
Wow, you gotta love them. I mean, you gotta love him. You can't. I just wish I could have understood a little bit more of what he's saying. But listen, we sit here, we talk about the games, we talk about what happens in the games. We aren't responsible. Not me, not callers, not people making comments on YouTube. None of us are responsible for who plays well and who plays poorly. We just talk about it. And listen, Cam Kitchens is the best defensive back on this team. There is no question about it. Okay. He is the best guy. He's better than James. He's better than Avante. he's better. He's better than Tyreek. He's better than DJ. He's better than Porter. Okay, he is the best defensive back on this team. However, in 2 plays against North Carolina, he royally screwed up. It was the difference. It gave them 14 points in a 3-point football game. Okay, and there were plenty of other plays, but it's way more complicated. Oh, he had a bad game. Well, this is college football, man. Like, you have a bad game, you're blowing your team's season. Like, you can't have bad games in college football. You might lose one here or there, but you certainly can't just write off and say, oh, well, I had a bad game, because there's not that kind of margin for error in college football. So, Kane, love you, buddy. But, and as far as the South Florida receivers, they've pretty much, other than Restrepo, who's hurt and isn't getting a chance to perform, but he was performing in camp and in spring practice, they're not performing at the level that everybody thought that they were going to perform based on what we all saw from them down here in high school. And I mean, that's the facts. And there's nothing that you, Kane, or me, Gary, or, music lover on the message, on the YouTube message, who's sitting here saying, Corey Couch is horrible, he shouldn't see the field. Is he dogging Corey Couch? Corey Couch has to play better. He had a horrible season last year. They recommitted to him. They put him out there. They're putting him out there this year. And he goes and he commits a mindless penalty in the 4th quarter the other night, as mindless a penalty as you will ever see, that gave them extra free yards that you will have a hard time overcoming against anybody, especially on the road in their stadium. And any coach will tell you that. And that was a critical penalty that should not happen. And Corey Couch will only continue to not pay the penalty for that because they don't have anybody else to put out there. 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. You hit the 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. Let's go now to the 706. You are live on CaneSport Live.
Hey, Gary, it's your boy Sebastian. How you doing?
Hey, what's up, Sebastian? How are you, man? Please don't scream at me. I'm a sensitive guy.
No, man. I mean, KK just kind of went in and just, I'm gonna keep it positive, like you were trying to keep the show. It's a good win. We would be feeling totally different if we lost. Those guys won. They won on the road.
Unless you bet.
ACC game. Say again?
Unless you bet like Greg. I'm
not like that. I'm just going to say, hey, these guys, they played hard on defense. They won on the road. Clean up the penalties. I know what you're saying about putting the young guys out there. This is what you get. But what I also think about too, Gary, is when you put young guys out there, these are lessons that's going to serve them better down the years to come. I know you're trying to win games, but I just think we could. I just want to be developing what we see as our future, and not kind of married to our past. But I thought it was a good game. I thought it was a good win. I thought they played fast. I thought they played hard with a big crowd at Lane Stadium. That would have really been a big game if Virginia Tech would have won it. Trust me, they wanted to win that game, but we won it, and so I'm happy about that. I'm really encouraged by seeing a lot more Wesley the Saint. I don't understand the rationale why Chase Smith doesn't play more.
He's just got to know what he's doing out there, man. As an athlete, they love him. They love him. They want him to develop. They want him to play. He's got to get into the playbook a little bit better, I think. And then I think you'll see him more.
Is that way? Because I just think he has the type of athleticism. Like, I'm watching the game right now. They're replaying the game, and I'm just watching how the running backs are just eating our lunch because we just don't have, the linebackers or safeties that they can kind of cover out to them, So those are the things that I think about of where we can get better. As I talk, because I know my time is limited, this season is a success to me if we get to 8-4. Not 7-5, get to 8-4.
I agree.
You give me an 8-4 team. You give me an 8-4. You give me a win against Florida State or Clemson, and the season's over, and we're 8-4. And I'm not too far from the expectations where I thought they would be 8-4.
That would be winning 6 of the last 7. I totally agree with you.
If we're 8-4, I mean 9-3 is running the table. But if we're 8-4 and we win a bowl game with what Mario had to work with, because most of this is not his team, then that is encouraging to send the recruits and just for us to be stable, because we have a pretty much good recruiting class with a lot of influx of good talent coming in. We could marry that with the transfer portal and a lot of things going forward. Where I see we lacking really is the 3rd and 2. If we could ever be a good 3rd and 2 football team, meaning that we can run the ball on 3rd and 2 and get it and play the type of defense we have right now, I think we'll be a decent team. I think
that's what they were. That was their goal, man. They were trying to build for that, in training camp and at the beginning of the year.
Do you understand my rationale?
I absolutely do. You're totally right. I mean, look at the Southern Miss game. They won the Southern Miss game by ditching the passing game and running the football. Then they went to Texas A&M and they ran for 171 yards. I mean, when have you ever think about this, Sebastian? I'm sure you've been watching football for many, many, many years. When have you ever seen a team just totally lose its physical personality? And we're gonna have Leon Searcy on here in a minute. I want to talk to him about this. Totally, like you're coming out, you're kicking butt, you're executing the run game like crazy, and then all of a sudden it just all goes poof, like it never happened. Bizarre, man.
Gary, I'm gonna say something to you. And the reason why the 3rd and 2 is so important to me is because when you're in close, tight ball games, sometimes you're gonna need that to win a game, to close it out at the end. Sometimes you're gonna have to do that to break the other team's will, and sometimes you're not gonna always play your best. This is a lot to ask of this team or just football players that every single week to be on your A game. You're not, I mean, even Alabama and Georgia has those games every now and again, but they just can out physical them kind of moving forward. So those are the things that I think about. Can we be a good 3rd and 2 kind of football season? I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna let you go, Gary. We have a lot of injuries this year, and I know we're working through them. I said this at the beginning of the year. I know you're not going to agree with me, but I think the most significant injury we suffered this year was Trevante Citizen.
Definitely one of them.
To have a power back that can break it. To me, Trevante Citizen, he probably is, to me, the difference in the Texas A&M game. He probably is the difference between, the North Carolina game, just trying to, stabilize that, because they're not a great team. Out of all the injuries we have, more than Zion, more than, Restrepo, and I know
Restrepo's a big one too.
Safety branch. I know that's a big one.
Yeah.
But to me, the most significant
Citizen would have made a difference. I agree.
This year.
Mm-hmm.
Citizen.
Yep.
He would have. But anyway, just kind of keep me on hold. Give me some recruiting information in relations to targets that probably not offered.
It's too soon. It's too soon for that, Sebastian. Everything's on hold right now. Recruiting is like dead in the water on hold. They got to win some games, and as we get into November and then obviously December, it'll pick up again. Right now, all the kids are in the middle of their seasons. It's about the kids that are committed and them sticking to their commitments right now. All right, man. Hey, thank you for being part of the show.
Before you put me on hold.
Sorry, Sebastian. I had to run because we got it's time for the point counterpoint segment of our show, and we got a couple guys in the green room right now that are never lacking for opinions on all these issues. The first I'm going to bring in is the voice of the fan, Bruce Warner, and then the next guy coming in is a guy that is never without great opinions. With his great cigars, and that's our main man, Leon Searcy. Leon, welcome back to CaneSport Live. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you having me on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on, brother. Thanks for coming on, man.
Bruce said you're out selling cigars.
No,
Well, you listen. Listen. I'm in the cigar business, and I want to apologize first and foremost for not being on last week because I was checking inventory of my cigar brand in Jacksonville. So I wanted to make sure that I was here for the show, even though I'm still in the business. I'm actually outside of the cigar lounge right now, checking the inventory of my cigars. But I had to be on the show. Absolutely.
Yes, you did. There'll be no more sleeping over my house
because I'm so afraid of Bruce Warner because I thought Bruce was going to come to Jacksonville and kick my ass if I didn't come on the show.
No, it's not that. It's just that we never, ever, ever say who's going to be on the show. And people say, who's your guest? And Gary made me swear never to say. But last week I said you, he said you, and then you didn't show up. So really,
hey, listen here, Bruce Warner. You know I'm in the business of cigars.
I know.
So if I can ever come on this show and it has anything to do with the Canes, I'm about it.
I know.
So if I didn't make the show, it means I was busy. But I never, ever would miss an opportunity to talk about my hurricane.
Okay.
And you know that.
You know, before we talk about the Hurricanes, I want to hear about your cigars. I want to hear about cigars, man. Where do these cigars come from? Are they Cuban?
Well, listen, me and my business partner, Howard G. and Ike Taylor, two-time Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, Ike Taylor.
We're all business partners.
Right.
All our cigars are out of Nicaragua. Our distributor is out of Miami. My good friend, Alex Menendez, he's our distributor. We've been in the business now for 3 years. We're in 17 states, and we're in 65 cigar lounges nationwide.
All right.
Wow.
Right. Let's see one. Let me see one. Let's see it.
You
Where
know
is
he's
it?
got one in his hand. You know
Well,
that.
listen, I'm smoking the Big Searcy right now.
Okay.
It's called the Big Searcy.
Big Searcy. All right. Oh, there's 72 on it too. Nice, man.
It is a 72 on it.
Yeah, it's a 72 on it. I saw it. So, what do you want to ask him, Gary?
Well, let's start with this. Okay, I'm sure you've seen this. Like we start out we got Mario as head coach now, Alex Mirabal in. Huge commitment to physicality, running the football, being tough. And they come out with that type of personality. Against Southern Miss, the passing game was struggling. Southern Miss was throwing all kinds of gimmick coverages at them. It was confusing Tyler Van Dyke and the receivers. So they ditched the passing game at halftime, and they run the ball in the second half effectively. Then they go to Texas A&M. They beat the living crap out of Texas A&M, Leon. That's an SEC defensive line with 5-star defensive linemen. They beat the crap out of them. They ran the ball for 171 yards. But since then, they haven't been able to run the ball. How does that happen? How do you just lose your running game?
Well, but listen, I can't understand, to be quite honest with you. Back in my heyday, the University of Miami was a stickler and built upon the offensive and defensive line. You build it from the inside out. And Mario is he's cut from the same cloth. All right, Mario has he has Jimmy Johnson. He was coached by Jimmy Johnson. He was under Nick Saban. And underneath those tutelage, it was always built on the inside out. And I think that's the main reason why the University of Miami has struggled over these last couple of games because, quite frankly, we've been soft up front. We've been soft in the running game. We've been soft defensively. And I think until you fix that, I think the University of Miami is going to be always on the outside looking in because you got to build it from the inside out. I don't care how many playmakers you have offensively, wide receivers, running backs, or quarterbacks. It's got to be built from the inside out. And I think Mario understands that. I think Mario is doing a hell of a job trying to build this team from the inside out. And I'm not sure if he has the people in place that he needs to win at a very superior level.
That's the answer, Gary. That's been the answer. They don't have it. They bring in this Inez Cooper. He looks like a future player. The other 5-star offensive lineman, from IMG. He looks legit, and he needs more of those guys because all the guys that we've had over the years, like Ken Herbert, actually I'm representing his brother in a case, but these guys just never panned out. They were 4-star line. They never panned out.
But they went to College Station on the road on a Saturday
know.
night, and they beat the crap out of those guys. And those guys, a couple weeks later, fought Alabama toe-to-toe to the last play. I mean, it's not like they were chump change. I mean, they beat the crap out of those guys at the line of scrimmage. I mean, I've never seen.
Bro, hey, listen, Gary, that's the most frustrating thing about this thing is that when they played Texas A&M on the road in a hostile environment, I think for the most part they did a pretty good job. They did a diligent job up front. Their ability to run the ball and their ability to stop the run. I have no idea. But then you come back and you play Mississippi. I mean, you play Middle Tennessee, and then then they act like they didn't have any guys in place to play. Listen, I told Bruce Warner before I came on this show, I really started watching a lot of Miami Hurricane football after Middle Tennessee. Now, I watched a little bit of North Carolina, which was very disappointing that they couldn't go toe-to-toe with North Carolina. But, I mean, listen, sandcastles aren't built overnight. Mario has to build this thing. I didn't think for one part that he was going to be able to have a national championship team overnight. He's got to be able to put his people in place. He got to be able to put his recruits in place to help define the pedigree that he wants to build at the University of Miami. So I'm willing to give Mario more time to build and develop this team, but it's very disappointing with some of the losses that we had over the last couple of weeks.
Right. It took Butch a long time. And actually, when Jimmy got here, he lost 5 games in his first year.
Yeah,
now, when Dennis came to you, he already had the Ferrari. All he had to do was turn on the engine and drive it. He didn't have to do it.
And Dennis was a good enough coach to do it.
Right.
He was a very good X and O football coach.
Right. So, I mean, Leon's right. There's not enough horses up front. We may have receivers. We may have 2-3 quarterbacks, 4 or 5 running backs, but we don't have them in the trenches. The defense is playing a little better, but the offensive line is a mess.
Hey, Leon, I had this theory. I want to know what you think about this. I've been trying to figure it out. I talked about this earlier in the show, so I'm going to be quick. I'm sitting on the field after the game, and I'm watching the offensive line walk off the field. Now, they had to go. They don't have depth. They played the whole game, starting unit, toe-to-toe. It was a very physical ball game. These kids were hurt, Leon, and I want you to talk about the pain that an offensive lineman feels after a physical game like that. These kids were hurt. I mean, I'm looking at Ty Clark, he can barely walk, center. And my theory is that those kids were hurting after that game playing Mario-style offensive line football. Were hurting more than they had ever hurt in their lives, and they didn't like it very much. And now the next week they're playing Middle Tennessee, and I think they just thought they were on vacation, man. I don't think those kids were ready to play mentally, physically. I think they were beaten up. I want to know from you, is there any possibility of what I'm talking about being true, with the pain that an offensive lineman walks out of a physical ball game with? And can it have a carryover effect for a couple weeks?
Well, I can only give you an assessment of my history at the University of Miami. That my toughest ball games when I was at the University of Miami was actually in practice. All right, so I am the offensive lineman that I was at the University of Miami based upon the defense that I faced every day in practice. Every day in practice, I faced the number 1 defense in the country, which got me familiar with the teams that I played on Saturdays. So I knew that there was never going to be a defense that I had that would challenge me more than the defense that I played in practice. And I'm only assessing this because if you don't have the tenacity as an offensive line up front with the defense that you play every week during practice, then you can't showcase your talents when it comes on Saturday. So I'm not questioning Mario's practice regimen, but I just know that what I as a stickler as an offensive lineman is that my toughest games were usually during practice. So I just think that there needs to be an assessment somewhere in practice where the offensive line has to struggle a bit against the defense to where on Saturdays it's easy for them. And I'm old school. I'm a dinosaur right now. So the most of the stuff I'm talking about has a lot to do with my old school premise where you play how you practice. If the regimen in practice is intense and that there's a foregone conclusion with you being the best that you can during practice, that somehow rollovers on Saturdays. And I'm not sure if the same regimen in practice is being assessed during the week to where where University of Miami can play the way they need to play on Saturdays. That's all
Yeah,
I'm saying.
and I'll throw something else, Leon. What's your thought? I mean, I used to go watch you guys. I watched you practice. You guys are there every week. You didn't have that many major injuries. Every week you look at the offensive line, they're not the same. There's no continuity. Nobody really knows what the other one's going to do. You're looking at second and third string guys playing now. Zion Nelson's been out for most of the year. And they're interchanging pieces, but there's no continuity. Is that a factor in your opinion? Did you hear me?
I heard you. Yes.
Is that a factor in your opinion that there's no
Absolutely. Listen, I mean, we just need more dogs up front on both sides of the ball. If we're gonna listen, I don't believe in Miami. The assessment that Miami getting back to where Miami used to be has a lot more to do with how Mario. His template in practice, how he gets those guys to perform in practice is a regimen of what University of Miami needs to be on Saturdays. And I'm not sure that I'm not sure if he has the game plan or the players that are ready to assess that kind of effort because I see what I see on Saturdays and it's not Hurricane football in my assessment.
Hey, one last thing before Gary goes. What did you tell me a few months ago at the book signing that Mario told you about those kids after spring? They don't know how to what? What was the word?
Well,
they don't know how to work.
They don't know how to work. They don't know how
That's scary.
Well, Mario told me because Mario was in Amelia Island here in Jacksonville. I had my radio show in Amelia Island in Jacksonville.
Right.
And what he told me off the air is that a lot of these players that he has right now don't know how to work, and maybe that's an attribute to how they're playing on Saturdays. But there's no way. Listen, there's no way in the world University of Miami should be losing to Middle Tennessee and teams like that. It was just disgusting to see, to be quite honest with you.
Oh, the complete no-show. He definitely doesn't have dogs. There's no question about it. I think there's maybe one guy in the starting lineup right now that has a chance to play in the National Football League one day. Leon, what was the moment where you physically hurt the worst in your career in football? Was it a college game, an NFL game? When did Leon Searcy go home on Sunday and questioning, like, can I make it to practice the next day? Or,
Well, hell, every day under Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson was a lunatic, bro. Jimmy Johnson, every day, every week, every day, our scholarship was on the line. I mean, listen, my freshman year in 1987, a week ago, they celebrated the 35th anniversary of the 1987 National Championship team. And I talked to Butch Davis and I talked to Dave Campo, who's a good friends of mine. And if you didn't perform well on the scout team, during that time, I mean, Jimmy Johnson would get rid of you. I mean, your scholarship each and every day was on the line, And that kind of pressure made me a better player. And the fact that every day I was going against the number one defense in the country. So that molded me and molded me into the offensive lineman that I was, because our defense was so good. And if your defense is that good as an offensive lineman, you can only get better. You can only get better going up against that kind of defense each and every day. So I just think the competition level in practice has to be elevated to the point where that, you know, you don't like each other. I hated my defense. I hated Tiger Clark. I hated Bill Hawkins, I hated all of those guys, but they made me better each and every day, because I knew that if I could block them on a daily basis when I was playing, that was only going to make me a better player. I just think the University of Miami has to get back to that competition level where the games are easy on Saturday and they're hard from Monday to Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And within those words is the dilemma of the Miami football program right now, because they don't have those type of players, for starters, and they don't have that level of competition on the practice field because they don't have those level of players. And I'm going to throw out another one at you, Leon. I don't think the coaches in spring and fall practice get a true reading of their team because they don't have that level of competition. I think they don't get to know their team till they get into the season.
That's sad. That's really sad. It really is sad.
It is
But
sad.
I really
really
believe
is sad.
I believe it. I really do. I see it every year right now, and I think it's going to change. I think Mario's the right guy to do it. But, you know, I think that the reason why all these deficiencies once the games begin is because, you know, they're always fixing something because they didn't know it was going to be a problem until they got into the games.
I totally agree. And by the time you get to the game, it's too late.
Too late.
You got listen. You got to be able to assess what your team is way before Saturday. I mean, it's in practice where you can assess what kind of talent and what kind of tenacity you have on the offensive defensive side of the ball throughout the week. As a coaching staff, you know if your team is well equipped and well prepared to play on Saturdays long before the game starts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I mean, I love Mario as my guy. We cut from the same cloth, but he had to know going into those games against Middle Tennessee, against the North Carolinas of the world, that their team was ill prepared to win those games. Now Texas A&M, I mean, we had a couple of miscues that cost us the game, but we should have won that game. And if we win that game, and then that's a building block to move forward with other games that we played. But I can't assess how you play so well against Texas A&M, and then you lay an egg against Middle Tennessee and North Carolina. It doesn't make any sense to me.
But you played, you coached, you've been around football for decades now. How does that happen, Leon? How does that happen? How do they not show up at all for Middle Tennessee?
That's coaching. The one thing I can assess is that when I was with Jimmy Johnson was harder on me, was harder on the team when we played teams that weren't on our level, because he knew that he did not want us to play to the level or the team that we played. He never had to get us up for Florida State, Michigan, Notre Dame, because he knew that we were going to be ready to go with that. But when you play the teams that are beneath you, he was harder on us with those teams that we played, because he didn't want us to play to the level of the talent that we were playing up against.
Yeah, and I think what's happening, unfortunately, is this season is spring practice and fall practice, but it's in a regular football season. He's still learning his team, and he's figuring out who he wants back next year and who he doesn't want on the team anymore. So even though it's a real season, it's almost like a spring practice and fall practice, because he's weeding out who he doesn't want. He's learning on the fly. So I expect a big difference next year, I hope. But I don't want to see this anymore. It's terrible. Against teams we should kill. but we're not that good, which is hard for us to say. We're not that good.
I got another.
We aren't that good. We aren't that good to be
We're not
quite
that
honest
good.
with you.
Now, I got another crazy theory for you, Leon, and you can relate to this because you can. Oh, I mean, Leon's got the foundation to think through this. Okay, you got a new staff that comes in. They've worked for 9 months. Okay, Mario grinds, unlike maybe there's only a handful of other coaches in the country that work anywhere near as hard as Mario. And these guys work 18 hours a day on a regular basis the entire year round. If it's not preparing for games, it's recruiting, it's developing players, whatever. Okay, you've been on this, you came onto the staff, you've worked 9 months, and you've had this one game circled, Texas A&M, College Station, for 9 months. Like, that's your first big test, is going to College Station, and you go up there and you get beat, and you're sitting there. We worked 9 months for this. We just got beat. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. We're flying home. We're getting home at 5 a.m. We're beaten up. We lost the game. I'm not sure that the coaching staff recovered from that, Leon. And you say it's coaching, and I'm sure you're right that coaching has a lot to do with it. I'm not sure the entire organization recovered from the disappointment of losing that game under those circumstances after working around the clock for 9 months to get ready for it.
Well, I mean, I can agree with you on that. Absolutely. I mean, listen, our defense played well enough to win. I mean, we had a muff punt. Van Dyke was pedestrian at best. We had an outstanding running game. Our offensive line protected well. He wasn't pressured. We ran the ball effectively. I just didn't think that Texas A&M game we had any playmakers at the wide receiving core to where we could utilize them effectively. But that Texas A&M game was winnable. I mean, as well as we played defensively in that game, outside of the muff punt and the ability to make tackles towards the end, that game was winnable. But you got to get over that. If you lost that game, you got to get over that. The season could still been salvaged, even though we lost to Texas A&M. I mean, we could have bounced back and beat Middle Tennessee and beat North Carolina. We were in both games to where we could have still had the opportunity to win the ACC. But, I mean, you lose to North Carolina. I mean, even though Van Dyke threw for almost 500 yards, we couldn't stop anybody on defense. We couldn't stop anybody defensively. So we got to find a way to turn this thing around. I mean, listen, I haven't been able to talk any smack for the last 3 weeks. It is very frustrating to me.
How about 2 decades, man?
Because my life is encompassed upon me talking smack for the University of Miami. And I had high hopes going into this season because I had this team at worst 10-2 or 11-1, and we've already lost 3 games.
Yep.
I thought they'd win 9. I thought 9 was
I thought we went 9 or 10.
Right, me too. Yeah, we all did. And the
Now-
funny thing is,
now I-
Gary and I did the post-game show for A&M, and we were like, they lost, but this was a great game. I'm happy. We were both happy.
I left A&M that night feeling really good about where this season was going.
Yep. You play like that the rest of the season, you'll kick everybody's ass. Maybe even
100%, man. That effort that we saw at College Station would win pretty much every game except maybe Clemson.
And then the bottom dropped out. So we all know now, after halfway through the season, Mario's got work to do. He's got a lot of work to do.
And you know what's sad? I'm going to tell you what's even sadder than that is that I'm here in the Jacksonville, and I'm watching Clemson play FSU, and I'm not sure if we are better than either one of those teams that played this last Saturday. I'm not sure if we're better than the Florida State or Clemson right now.
I don't think so. But Florida State's playing well.
The Florida State game is going to define the season.
Yep.
It's going to define
Yeah. It's going to be a tough game. I'm watching the game last Saturday, and I'm saying to myself, can we beat either one of these teams? And if we can't, I mean, the season is a loss.
They can beat Florida State, but first they got to beat Duke and they got to beat Virginia, and they got to get to Florida State 5-3, and then it's another circle the wagons type of moment. We'll see.
Right. You got to get there. Got to get there, man.
All right, Leon, man. We'll let you sell some more cigars. That's a pretty nice. Where are you? That's a nice looking place behind you there.
Well, yeah, I'm in Jacksonville right now. I'm at one of the cigar lounges that has my cigars. So I had to come here and check the inventory to make sure they had enough of my cigars in play for this weekend. So
That's
I'm
a nice
outside
looking
right.
lounge behind you there. What's it called?
It's called Aromas in Jacksonville.
Huh.
Okay.
Looks pretty nice. All right, man. Well, hey, thank you so much.
For Leon, nothing but the best.
Nothing but the best, man. Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. We'll do it again soon, hopefully.
Hey, I appreciate you. Thank you very much for having me on.
You got
All
it,
right,
buddy.
Leon.
I'll talk to you soon, Leon. Be well.
You got it. Y'all be well.
Thank you, man. You're the best. Thank you.
All right.
All right, Bruce. We'll see you, I guess, tomorrow night for the Lamar Thomas show.
You got it. He even apologized. I didn't tell him to do that. He did it on his own,
Nah, he's the best, man.
He's
Love Leon. He always did. All right, man. We'll see you tomorrow night.
All right. Talk to you later, buddy. Bye.
All right. 563-999-3550. 563-999-3550 is the number. You hit the 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. Sorry for those of you that were holding on during that. So we got about a half hour here. Let's hit the call, see what you guys have to say. Let's go to the 917. You're live on CaneSport Live.
Hey, what's up, Gary? BK Hurricane.
Hey, what's up, BK? How are you? Thanks for holding on during that. But it's the great Leon Searcy, man.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I can't figure out the ebbs and flows of this team. They come out like gangbusters, and then something happens in the second half. So it's like the opposite. Usually they perform in the second half and slow in the first half. So they just basically exchange philosophies in halves.
They've exchanged everything. They were a running team at the beginning of the season. Now they're a passing team. They were coming out slow. Now they're coming out fast, and they're not finishing. I mean, can you imagine being Mario Cristobal trying to coach this team? I mean, it's like every time you solve one problem, another one resurfaces, and then you got so many problems that you're trying to fix. Little things like clock management late in the game start falling through the cracks. A kid commits a stupid penalty in the fourth quarter. You can't sit his butt on the bench because you have nobody else to put in. I mean, listen, it is what it is, but it's crazy.
Right. So I know Corey Couch committed that egregious penalty. So what's going on with Isaiah Dunson and some of, in this plethora of young defensive backs? That
the freshmen aren't ready.
Couch pretty much standing out.
The freshmen aren't ready. That was obvious. They threw Jaden Harris on the field for one play against Middle Tennessee, and he gave up a touchdown. The freshmen aren't really ready. Isaiah Dunson is kind of ready, but he doesn't have speed, man. It's like, so you put him out there. He doesn't like DJ Ivey has way more speed than Isaiah Dunson. So you could put him out there, but you are at risk of giving up a deep pass play, which has only destroyed your season, by the way. So, like, what are right now, the personnel in this program is just not there. It's not close to where it needs to be. It's not close to where it is going to be in a couple years. And the coaches are doing the best they can. I really think so. I will blame the Middle Tennessee game on the coaches. I do think they had a hangover from Texas A&M. I think they let one game beat them twice, which is something that every coach preaches not to allow happen. But this is a very good coaching staff. And I think that they're doing the best. I think that we are seeing some progress in certain areas, but we're not going to see it all. And if he pulls Corey Couch out of the game, he is now weakening his team late in the fourth quarter of a game they must win. They are trying to break a 3-game losing streak. They cannot start putting guys out there that don't belong on the field right now.
So what do you think? What do you think is the reasoning with over the last 5 years we've had pretty decent recruiting classes? Pretty decent recruiting classes. Let's just say in the last 5 years we averaged top 25 recruiting.
I think it's depth of evaluation, BK. I think you got to do your homework in recruiting. I don't think you could just, there's 250, I believe, 4-star players every year, or something like that. They're not all going to be good players, and you can beat your chest. Oh boy, I signed all these 4 stars. I got the number 6 recruiting class in America. If you haven't done your proper evaluation and you're not sure that you don't know that you're taking the right kids, then it's going to catch up to you. And that's what's been happening to this program. I mean, every single year. I mean, we do the State of the U series in the summer. You could just go back and look at that. Just search State of the U on our website and look at those articles that we do in the summer. And we look back at the recruiting classes. This program's been on probation, man, self-imposed probation, because of all the scholarships that have been blown in recruiting because of bad evaluation. That's what made Butch Davis such a great recruiter. It's what made Jimmy Johnson so great. It was the degree and level of evaluation before a kid even got offered a scholarship to the University of Miami. That's what's got to get better. And I think Mario's got he's got a lot of layers to the support staff, and I hope that they're doing it better.
Right, and most of those kids were South Florida kids. We kept saying we got to recruit South Florida better. We got to recruit South Florida better. We got to recruit South Florida better. They go out and get a bunch of these South Florida kids.
You got to take the right ones, man.
Don't pan out.
You got to take the right ones. I mean, like Kane calls in earlier. He's yelling. He's yelling and screaming at me like everybody in South Florida is the right recruit, but they're not. Like you have to know what's in here, man. You got to know what's in here and what's up here. And the only way to do that is put a lot of work in.
Yeah, I think Miami needs to become more of a national, recruiting.
They are.
Pick what you can out of South Florida and move on.
They are. They absolutely are. They are recruiting nationally under Mario. They're recruiting in South Florida too, but they're not kissing anybody's butts either. Like, listen, Randy Shannon, really had it right in his approach to South Florida. But he knew South Florida unlike anybody. And there were some schools, if he knew that the kids coming out of there weren't coming out with the right culture and stuff, he wouldn't recruit the schools. He wouldn't even go there. And it would piss people off till no end. But Randy understood how to recruit South Florida. And, he made a few mistakes himself now. He took, too many kids from one school once or twice and things like that. But
yeah, Miami Northwestern.
Yeah, Northwestern, I think another year. Yeah. St. Thomas, I think. But what Randy used to do is before he would take a kid, he would go to the school, and everybody knew Randy because he was from South Florida and he knew people all over town. He'd walk the halls. He'd go see the janitors and ask about kids. What's this kid like? Does he treat you with respect? He'd go talk to teachers. He'd go talk to guidance counselors. He would go talk to principals. And he would not take a kid if he hadn't put in that level of effort into vetting out that player. And, Randy, got run out pretty, after 4 years here, but if you look at some of the recruiting that Randy did, it was pretty good. Like Randy put together one hell of an offensive line here. I'll tell you that, with Brandon Linder and those guys. And,
he recruited a bunch of good linebackers too.
Yeah, he did. And, he knew what he was doing. He just never could pull the whole thing together. He never got the coaching staff right. They didn't give him the budget. If he had today's budget, it might have been different. And he was pretty stubborn too. He made some mistakes. But one thing he knew was how to recruit South Florida. And had he not gotten fired, I think he would have gotten Teddy Bridgewater. I think he would have gotten Amari Cooper. And maybe things would have been different at the U. But he knew how to evaluate South Florida kids, is my point.
All right, well, let's just hope they beat Duke, because the sky is going to fall if they don't.
We can't have any more sky falling, man. We've had enough of that. All right,
There's
BK.
No more sky left if they lose to Duke. Keep me on.
All right, man, you got it. Thanks for being part of the show. 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. Hit 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. Got a couple callers, but we do have room for you. We got 20 minutes of show left. So if you got something to say, call in now. We'd love to hear from you. Let's go out to the 954. Wait a minute. 954 just dropped. Where'd he go? Let's go out to the 786. You are live on CaneSport Live.
Hey, what's going on, Gary?
Going good. Who's this?
This is Eric.
Hey, what's up, Eric?
Gary, I wasn't able to watch the show this morning, but I hope you really got into Matt's butt today about Kobe Young. I really hope you got into it.
Look,
that's pretty much all I had to say.
Listen, Eric, the truth's in the middle on that. In all honesty, I love to give Matt a hard time, but he did say Colby was slow, okay, and Colby is not real fast. I mean, probably runs 4.65. You know, I'm not going to say 4.7. I think he's in the 4.6s or whatever, but he's in the 4.6s at a position where you're supposed to be running 4.4. Listen, he was at JUCO for a reason. But what we're seeing is that he has things that maybe make up for a little bit of a lack of speed. He's a big receiver. He's got very good ball skills. He goes up and gets it. And he caught people by surprise as much as anything, quite honestly. So now he's a known quantity. He is not catching anybody by surprise anymore. And they have to get more. They have to get more out of him. He's not just going to be able to run go routes. He's going to have to get in his playbook. He's going to have to learn the plays the best that he can, and he's going to have to be able to do more than just run go routes if he's going to continue to have effectiveness like he's been having. He's surprised everybody to this point. Okay, he's not surprising anybody anymore.
No, I agreed with Matt at the time. He said this around right when we got him. I mean, honestly, I thought our wide receiver recruiting would end up being really good, and it was like Matt said that it could take up roster spots, but what it looks like it is, our wide receiver recruiting isn't what it is, and our wide receivers in our room aren't as good as Kobe Young, which is shocking. I think that's honestly a shock that Kobe Young has come in. I mean, he didn't come in like you said. It obviously took him time, but he came in the fall, but it's kind of shocking how he's emerging, and none of our other receivers like Brinson and the other guys are emerging.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of them not emerging. With all respects, again, to Kane, they're getting passed. I mean, you just saw Colby Young. He just lapped them all. You know, I mean, Colby George has been hurt, but Michael Redding's been hurt, but Colby, Brinson and just lapped him. I mean, listen, I feel bad for those guys. But they're not getting it done.
No, there's nothing to feel bad about it. I mean, they have to put in the work and get better at the end of the day. I mean, at the end of the day,
look at Brashard Smith. The results that he's getting when he started putting in the work. Mario calls his parents in. They sit down. They have a meeting. I'm assuming the message is, Brashard, you have talent. You can help this team, but you're not doing all the things that you need to do to be able to do that. And you have a decision to make. Okay, I am prepared to feature you. Okay, you are going to get your opportunity, but you have to do your part, and you have to practice harder, and you have to study harder, and you have to show up on Saturdays more prepared to play, and you will be rewarded with playing time, and you will get your chance to be a real player for the Miami Hurricanes. And you know what? Last couple of weeks, he's done it, right? Applause for Brashard Smith, man. All right, Eric, you got anything else, man?
No, that would be all. Thank you again for the great content you always produce, Gary.
Thank you so much, man. We appreciate you. And I know guys are frustrated and the Canes fan is fed up. Hang in there, everybody. Don't let it get you too down. And we'll keep doing what we do and try to help make the experience as good as we can make it for you. And everyone's in this thing together. And, like I said, just don't get too down. Hopefully they win these next few weeks and we'll have an interesting month in November. Let's put it that way. All right. I have a wide open board right now. So I'm going to put out a last call for calls tonight. 563-999-3550. 563-999-3550. You hit the 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. In the meantime, let's head over to these YouTube comments and see what we got here. Halo Master says the Canes are dead. They have been since Shapiro was busted. Canes have a crap program and deserve none. Okay, obviously a Florida State fan or something. But there is a little bit of truth to what he's saying. The Nevin Shapiro nonsense did not help anything, for sure. Crap program, no. Halo Master, FSU fan, I can assure you this is not a crap program. I can assure you it's a program that is going to get it together and is going to turn the corner at some point. And hopefully it's by November when your Knoll rear end comes into Hard Rock thinking you're all high and mighty with your what will certainly be about a 4-5 record at that point, because you guys have lost 3 in a row. So what are you, 4-3 right now? Okay, no, so you'll be probably be about 5-5 probably by the time you guys come in with your high horse and everything. And I hope that the Miami Hurricanes have gotten their act together by that day to win that game, because if they beat Duke and they beat Virginia and they set up a big FSU game, that is going to be the game that will define the season. No doubt about it. And Halo, please stop spamming our I'm blocking you right now, man. You're like spamming our messages and I don't like it. You're out of here. Okay, Eulin Middlebrooks says no reason to redshirt Ja'Cory Brown. Put him some packages, use his talent. All right, listen. I can just give you my opinion on this. Okay. Ja'Cory, you could play him 4 games and he could keep his red shirt. Okay. You're now at the midway point of the season. The runs up the middle caught them by surprise. It was a nice gimmick. Okay. People are going to be prepared for it now. That's number one. And number two, this is a developmental quarterback. This is a kid, and I have the benefit of having watched them throw in practice quite a bit. And he's a developmental quarterback who is going to take some time. Okay. And we don't know when he's going to be able to be the starter, because if Jake Garcia hangs in there here, he's going to be the next starter, almost certainly. You got Jaden Rashada coming into the program. He's supposed to be very, very good. He's having a very good year in high school, but Ja'Cory had a good year in high school too. So we'll see what that looks like in the spring. But the point I'm getting at is there's no guarantees with Ja'Cory, and he might as well have options. Okay. Whether he finishes his career at Miami, whether a day comes where he has to transfer if he doesn't make it here, because they ain't stopping recruiting. I'll tell you that. Okay. Mario and Ponce and these guys, they're not going to stop recruiting. They want 5 quarterbacks competing every year. Okay. So I just think that it makes sense to redshirt them. I hope they do. I know, to me, redshirt years are way too flippantly thrown away in today's modern day mindset of college football. I think that they can be important to certain players. A guy like Wesley Basainth, he needs to play. Okay. Trevante Citizen, had he not been hurt, he needed to play. But there aren't a ton. Nigel E. Kelly, he needs to be playing this year, which he is, because he needs to be a superstar next year. Okay. Ja'Cory Brown doesn't need to be a superstar next year. I hope they redshirt him. I hope they, that he preserves that year of eligibility. Let's see. Jeff Lynn, how many Miami players will go to the NFL after this year besides Messidor? No, there won't be many. Only had 1 guy drafted in the 7th round last year. Other than Messidor, I'm not sure it's going to be much different this year. I haven't started looking into the NFL draft yet. We don't even know who's going to be in the draft at this point. But great point. Mallory's going to end up on a practice squad. Yeah, probably because of the way that he doesn't block. And it's really kind of interesting that after 4 years in college football, obviously working on blocking the whole way through, that we're still sitting here saying that Will Mallory is not a great blocker, but he's not. And, I don't think that's going to change at this point. All right. Chris Brown Doesn't like the switching quarterback thing for a certain gimmick play. I don't either. When you have a quarterback like Tyler Van Dyke, why would you take your best offensive player off the field? However, I mean, it was for a play or two. It worked and picked up a first down in one of those cases, and it gave Jakuri his moment. He's out there practicing every day, and it gave him a little moment. So I don't see any harm in it. They can do it 4 times, and they've done it. They've done it 2 now. So it'll be okay, I think. Jason C says, don't blame Gary. No, do not blame me at all. Nothing that happens out there is my fault. It's certainly not it's certainly not anything I drew up. But in all seriousness, I do believe that the program is headed in the right direction. I've said that. And, they've had some stumblings here along the way, obviously. But my opinion in the big picture has not changed one bit. Absolutely. I get ridiculed for it at times. Somebody called me a Mario fanboy on, I think it was the message boards yesterday. I said, I hope that's a compliment. I mean, if fanboy means that I believe that Mario is the right guy to lead the program out of this horribly disgusting abyss that it's been in for 2 decades, yeah, I'm a fanboy then, and I'll wear it proudly, man. Whatever, man. Are these fanboy glasses like? Does this fit the bill? If you can call me a fanboy. I mean, I don't care if it means that I have that opinion. I'm all good, man. Chris Brown again says that if you can run, you can control the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game. No doubt about it. But there was a lot of conversation about the last few minutes last week, and the play calling of Josh Gaddis and him sticking to the air in that moment. And picture yourself, you're sitting up there in the press box like Josh Gaddis was, and you've been throwing the ball effectively all game, and you haven't been able to run it effectively. And you need to win the ball game. Okay. You're in a 1-score game now. Okay. You believe in your quarterback. And you believe in the way you've been able to throw the ball all day, and you feel you have a favorable advantage there. Now, you can be stubborn, and you could say football 101 textbook, absolutely, without exception, says I am supposed to run the ball here, at least on 1st and 2nd down, and run clock. Okay. And what if you do it and it doesn't work? Because it hasn't been working the whole game. And now you have to give the ball back to the home team, as bad as they are, which they are, with a chance to win the football game. Okay. That's scary, man. So he went with what he felt was working and what was strong enough. And at the end of the day, it worked. Okay. They were able to move the ball. They got the first downs, and they ran out the clock anyway. So Josh Gaddis knows that that's not, that is not the strategy for every week, every game. He was very committed when we spoke with him on Monday to working on the running game very, very hard this week, so that the next time he's in that situation, maybe the running game is performing the way it did at Texas A&M, and they can actually run the ball, and he can do it with confidence and not have to feel that he has to throw it every time. But I thought people were a little too hard on him, to be honest. And I think you just got to kind of understand what he is facing out there when he has to make those play calls. All right. Let's see. 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. This is the final call for calls. I got 2 of them on the board right now. Let's go to the 954. You are live on CaneSport Live.
Hi, Gary. Is it me?
Yeah, it's you. Who's this?
Yeah. This is Red Kane.
Hey, what's up, Red? What you got for us, man?
Let me tell you something. I came kind of late to this, and I didn't want to like beat a dead horse. But you just sparked something that I really kind of like, not resent, but bothers me. Like everybody's giving Gaddis a free pass. Remember the first 2 games? They say, "Oh no, keep it vanilla, waiting for the A&M game." And what happened there? It was vanilla as you can get. And now they're giving him credit for Tyler being good. But you know what? They got together with Mario and Tyler and said, "What's going to work here?" And all of a sudden they spread the offense, which was something he never did before. So not for nothing, Gary, I'm a homer. I've been around, but like I can't agree with you on that. I think he's been terrible as an offensive coordinator. Here you are, every helmet that you have against Tennessee State, you're better than. Yet they stopped you on the 1 yard line. What was it, 3, 4 times? And the very next play, another thing, going back to our defensive coordinator, they threw a bomb for 99 yards. And like I always said, oh no, not me, Saban, all those guys always said, talent wins games. However, I always believe that it's true. Only when you win a game, when your opponent is superior, is because of coaching. And they totally out-coached us, including Mario. But that's for nothing. Like I said, I'm a homer. I think he's like Messiah, whatever. And I don't want to talk like this. I don't want to diss like commits or whatever. But to me, the failure of this year so far has been the coaching. And we're supposed to have all these like star coaches, whatever, including Mario, and like whatever he did, whatever. You can't get you guys up. I know it's a tough game after A&M, but you can get you guys up to take on Middle Tennessee State, which I have trouble saying it. And like, and you get your ass kicked like that. It's up to the coaching. I'm sorry, but
it is.
Another thing you mentioned for Randy Shannon. Randy Shannon, I always said you can't win a horse race if you don't have the horses. Randy Shannon, I think his first year, did he not recruit the best recruiting class in the nation in 1 year? And all from here, which is fine. I know you can't get everybody from here or expect to win with everybody from here. But like he was good at that. But bottom line, our coaching staff, including from our offensive lineman, who's supposed to be a guru, whatever, how do you not push Middle Tennessee State 1 yard to get a touchdown? With the back that we have,
I think those guys had no legs, man. I'm telling you, like I heard Leon Searcy, but I don't. Okay, the one thing that he wasn't taking into account. Wait, listen. The one thing I don't know if you heard the Leon Searcy segment, but we were talking about this, and the one thing I think that he was not taking into account was they don't have any Leon Searcy's on this team, okay? And Leon Searcy was a freaking monster, okay? And yeah, so he might have been able to play a physical football game and go through physical practices and be okay to play the game on Saturday. I'm not sure that those guys on this offensive line were in that state physically or mentally against Middle Tennessee State.
No, yeah, you're right. But who's that phone line? The coaching staff. I'm sorry. We're not talking about these guys that are not Leon Searcy, obviously. But you cannot push a guy that's recruited by Military State that Miami wouldn't even take a look at, and you can't push them 1 yard in with a back like Franklin, who's a stud, or whomever. That all you need is 1 yard, and they stuffed us there. And the very next play, 100-yard pass. That is all. I'm sorry. That's all on the coaching, which I hate to say that because we want to like the develop players, but like it's hard to kind of swallow that. I'm sorry.
All right, man. Well, I get it, but hang in there.
No, thank you. I will. And yeah, go Canes. Actually, not for nothing. I'll tell you guys, my kids, I got 2 Seminoles and a Gator, so it's gonna be rough for me to go to that game. But we're bringing the DJs and we're gonna party over there. We're gonna make it happen.
All right, man. Do it up. Yeah, don't let the tailgates for Florida State go by the wayside, everybody. Those are epic.
No. We'll drown them out. I'm going to kick my kids out of there. Don't worry about
it. All right, man. Hey, thanks for being part of the show. Give us a call next week. All right, let me there were a couple of other good little comments over here. Honey IV, he says that you need to evaluate each South Florida recruit as an individual, cannot lump them all in the same boat. There is no question about that. A lot of people do lump them into the same boat. Pinellas Kane, Miami's getting the second shelf South Florida kids. We need the top shelf kids. And he is correct also. To which Honey IV replies, Dalvin Cook versus Joe Yearby would be a perfect example, and absolutely would be. So I think we'll leave it. We'll leave it at that for tonight. So, hey, thank you everybody for watching. Those of you that are going to watch the on-demand podcast or whatever you want to call it in the coming days, thank you for doing that. Tomorrow night, program note, Lamar Thomas show at 8:00 tomorrow night. The great one will be back with us. And Good Morning CaneSport in the morning. We'll have a You Bet CaneSport tomorrow night. Yeah, man, the beat goes on. Cane's got to beat Duke and Virginia and set up a big one against Florida State. Thanks again, everybody. We'll see you next time.